morning and welcome to the Toronto International Film Festival. My name is Zaira Zarza and I'm a member of the programming team here at TIFF. Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to introduce to you this morning the wonderful animated feature, Abominable, by filmmaker Jill Colton. To begin, we would like to acknowledge that today's event is taking place on the treaty territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and the Huron-Wendat. We're grateful to have the opportunity to work in this community. This film is eligible for the Grolsch People's Choice Award. Please vote for your favorite films at tiff.net/vote. We would like to thank Universal Pictures for providing us with this film. Jill Colton is an American animator. She studied character animation at the California Institute of the Arts and was a storyboard artist for the Pixar films Toy Story, A Bug's Life, Toy Story 2, and Monsters, Inc. The animated feature Open Season was her directorial debut. Abominable is her latest film. I want to remind you, everybody, that we're going to have a Q&A after the credits roll with some of the members of the cast and of the crew members of the film. But please now, to introduce Abominable, join me in welcoming its director, Jill Colton.
Thank you, Zaira. That was very nice. Welcome. I, first of all, can't tell you, as a storyteller and a filmmaker, what a privilege it is to be able to debut a film at the Toronto Film Festival on the opening weekend. You are the second audience to see this movie. We showed it yesterday, so we're so excited to just see what you guys think. It's been a labor of love for my entire crew to work on this movie. It's quite special, and the story, being the writer-director of it, the story is quite personal, so it was an amazing film to work on. Today, we really couldn't be here without some people that I definitely need to give thank yous to. We are part of the Universal NBC family, which is headed by Donna Langley, and her support has meant everything to us. And really saying thank you to DreamWorks Animation President, Margie Cohen. Thank you doesn't even cover it for her. She's created a place at DreamWorks for artists and storytellers that is unparalleled to any studio I've ever worked for. And she has been a pioneer in the filmmaking industry for decades, which is a huge inspiration for me. So thank you, Margie. We've also partnered on this film, so it's a DreamWorks Pearl Studio co-production. Pearl Studio is in Shanghai, and when we're doing a film, this film takes place completely in China with an all-Chinese cast, and it was incredibly important to us to get those details right and to be authentic with this culture. So Pearl Studio is really committed, and it's run by Frank Zhu, and we all actually have felt the support from them, helping us all along the way. They work with us every day. They have a team of artists over in Shanghai. And I think you're going to really feel the authenticness of this. So I'd love to also introduce to you right now the Chief Creative Officer from Pearl Studios and a huge supporter of the film, Palin Shao. Also, my other partners on this film, I have to tell you that I don't know how many of you know what it's like to make an animated film. It takes years and years, and there was probably almost 400 artists that worked on this film. Wrangling a team like that is crazy, and you can imagine the day-to-day gets kind of nutty. And as the creative head on this, I need time and space to think about the movie, and the person who makes this possible, she is my partner, my collaborator, but she also makes it so that I'm able to just do my job. My producer, Suzanne Bergy, please come on out. My other creative partner in crime, we've known each other for 20 years, and there's nothing like working with someone that you've worked with for 20 years. You have a second hand. when it comes to talking creative. So I couldn't have done this without him, my co-director, Todd Wilderman. And I am very pleased to tell you that today we have the three main cast characters from our movie. I'm going to introduce them. The first one is he plays a 9-year-old, lovable, free-loving kid that's always looking for a friend. Please welcome Albert Tsai. And playing the popular socialite that has a little bit of arrogance to him, the hilarious and talented Tenzing Norgay trainer. Come on out. And last but certainly not least, this is our main actor in the movie. She and I really bonded over the fact that when I was younger, I grew up watching a lot of Disney movies, a lot of princess movies. But I'm telling you, from a girl who grew up in California, who was a surfer, a skateboarder, and a tomboy, there was not much in the princess movies that I could relate to. So it was very important to me to create a main character that was strong, independent, and really could drive this film. The character is a tomboy, and Chloe Bennet very much shared this with me, and she fully embodied this character. And so, come on now, Chloe. Woo! Come on this way. She's a rock star. So basically, without further ado, we are thrilled as a team up here to bring you the second public viewing of Abominable. Hello, everyone. So some people are leaving, some of you are staying for the question and answer. I'm going to bring back out our crew. I'm going to start with Chloe Bennet. Come on out. Played Yi. Woo! Great. Hello. Let's also bring out Tenzing and Albert. Peng and Jin. And then let me also bring out Suzanne Bergy, Todd Wilderman, and Pei-Lin Chow.
Thank you very much. I think I'm going to open the floor right away. If you have a question, please raise your hand, and then I'll repeat it so that everyone can hear it, because there are no microphones in the audience. Okay, there's one right there. Thank you. What is the biggest difference between a live action film and an animation? Putting all together, it seems like many, many hours.
Right. I think the biggest difference is that every single frame on there that you saw was created from nothing. So instead of, say, a live action film, you can go check out sets. You might be able to find a snowy hillside you could pretend was the Himalayas. Every single frame of this movie was created from scratch in the computer. So it takes a long time. Does anyone else want to add to that?
I think just to add to what Jill said, it's if you think in terms of like every prop, every character, every piece of clothing, every piece of hair, everything that you see is made in the computer. So it just takes forever.
Right. It's also, this is weird, there's a double acting process, and that sounds silly, but these guys come into a recording session with us, and we direct the actors, we work with them until we get the best performance that all of us want and that we're happy with, and then we import that into the computer, and the animators have a model in front of them, and they'll hear Chloe's voice, and then we direct the animators to act out the scene, and then it takes, I would say, maybe a week to do 3 or 4 seconds worth of acting per animator. So there's 51 animators on this film. But you can imagine that acting process is with these folks first, these talented people, and then with our talented 51 animators.
Well, in terms of the acting process, it's very different because you have to imagine everything. You don't have the sets or the other characters or anything to really show the scene. So you have to imagine it all and then portray it all using your voice. So it's very different there, too.
Right.
I see a question back there.
A lot of it was like, the hardest, it's interesting because everyone always says that, oh, animation, you can show up in your pajamas, it's so fun and easy, and it's just, first off, if I would never show up to DreamWorks in my pajamas. I'd be like very unprepared. I'd get fired, I don't know, it'd be weird. And it's actually like what you just said, it's incredibly, you have nothing. So when you're doing live action, you wake up, you go through hair and makeup, you're putting on your wardrobe, you walk onto a set, and that does a lot of the work for you in terms of using your imagination. We were in a lovely room, but it was Jill and I, and it was Jill and each individual. And so a lot of it was actually very physical also. Yeah. A lot of efforts, what we call, so it was a lot of that.
There was a question right there, next. How did you choose?
Right.
Yeah, the specific location of the character.
Well, that was an interesting process because when I knew this journey was going to take place from a city that was kind of based on Shanghai, it was not Shanghai, but from Shanghai to the Himalayas, because I knew the end of the movie, we wanted to get the Yeti home, I kind of charted that path. And so I had a giant map of China on my wall when I was writing and kind of started to map out a logical journey from Shanghai to the Himalayas. And in doing research, I started to find all these images, and this was just first kind of on the internet, but like finding images along the way that I never knew existed in China. And like the Leishan Buddha scene, that is a real location in China. It's the tallest Buddha in the world, carved completely out of rock, and when I saw it, I was like, I'm using that. And so just the more I researched and then our team researched, we found these gorgeous places that I think a lot of us know about the Great Wall or the Terracotta Soldiers, but not everybody knows about the Yellow Mountain with all those stairways or the Yangtze River or the fields of canola flowers. And so our team just kind of fell in love with the color palette and the beauty of China, and we really wanted to showcase it. So.
I'll get to you in a second. Here first, thank you.
It was a beautiful movie. So you said it took years to make animation films. How long did it take to make this one in particular?
It takes years to make animation films. How long did it take to make this one in particular?
This was what's interesting, because I wrote the script about 7 years ago. And we started in production. Many things happened along the way. One of them, we were sold to Universal, which was fantastic. The movie went through a bunch of changes, and then we really hit production 18 months ago, which is very, very short time to do an animated film. So we just, our whole crew circled the wagons, and we were like, are we gonna do this? And everyone went, yeah. So many years in the making, but with some, ups and downs in between. But that's very typical in Hollywood.
I have two questions up there, one here, and then you. I'll get to you. Thank you. How did you make it so realistic? Thanks.
Good question.
Anybody want to take a stab?
Well, we had an amazing crew, and our production designer, Max Boaz, he put himself into this movie so much and made it look as beautiful as, like the paintings that he did for the movie. The production team was able to take those paintings and they matched them almost perfectly. It was actually, we had this new, what was the software called? It was a new thing.
I was actually going to say that. DreamWorks creates their own software, and one of the proprietary software that they created was a software called Moonray, and what it gave us was the ability to get that fur that just looks so luscious, and all the nature down to the little details and the leaves. And so it's a combo of our talented team and also this great new software that we got.
One thing just to add with that software, what was so helpful for this movie in particular, animating characters with fur is really difficult. Jill and I have done that in the past together with a movie, and this movie in particular, with this new software, the animators were actually able to animate Everest and show us rough blocking with his actual fur on him. And that's not usually the case. Usually we look at him and, yeah, you see him, yeah, and he looks like kind of a Michelin man or just like he's been shaved. And it's really awkward and hard to know, like, is this performance good or is it weird and you don't know? But to have that benefit of having him fully furred and looking in character, we were able to get such subtle animation, and it was a real breakthrough.
Right. And it used to be that when you would have a furred character and a human character, let's say, it would be like, oh, no, they can't hug. Yeah. They can't hug. Because it was really hard to get that interaction between the fur and other things, and now it just is seamless. Obviously, we needed a lot of hugging to take place in this movie, so.
There was also, this is worth noting, there's a department called CFX, and CFX, their whole job is to do things like wind in hair, or snow flurries, or wind in tarps, or dust debris. A whole team of people do those things, and it really does make a difference. Like, just as Suzanne said, the couple scenes where you see them hugging, you know, we show storyboards of that, and our CFX team goes,
It's so funny because after you told me this, I found out this information, then I saw it again, and every time they hugged, I was like, look at that wind. Look at that fur and that hair. Look at that hug. You guys no one even knows what went into that hug. It's amazing. You guys need to now rewatch it knowing that, and you'll just be oohing and awing the whole time.
I just want to add that I don't know much about the software and everything that they use, but I did get to sit in on a couple of their production meetings with all the animators and the effects people, and everyone did their role just so well. They were talking about a fly around Yi's head for literally 15 minutes. I thought it looked fine, but that just goes to show how, you know, dedicated everyone was to the movie, and it was really cool.
By the way, this is a fun fact, but this is how dedicated the team is. That fly that Tenzing's talking about that's flying in slow motion around Yi's head, it's that scene where she kind of has her sunglasses, whips her sunglasses on and looks at Jin sideways. One of the CFX artists actually put little mini sunglasses on one of the flies. In slow motion.
The fly put the sunglasses on in slow motion also? That'd be amazing.
You'll never see it with the naked eye, but it's there.
There was a question up there, and then you. Yes, go ahead. Where did you get the inspiration for the character of the Yeti? There are many folk tales about it.
Right. Well, one of the interesting things about being a director is sometimes you come into a studio and the studio pitches you projects that have scripts or they're partly done. And the cool thing about this one was they just said, we want a Yeti movie, and kind of gave me a blank slate, which is, it doesn't happen all the time. So it was both exciting and terrifying. But the inspiration came from a lot of things. I didn't want this Yeti to be the typical Yeti that people picture, where it feels like a man in a suit walking on two legs. So we worked with our designer, Nico Marley, to really create a character that could walk on 4s and 2s and roll up into a snowball if we wanted him to, that you could recognize him as a Yeti, but not like a Yeti you've ever seen. And then as far as his personality goes, my inspiration a lot is from, I've had giant dogs my entire life. So Great Danes, over 100 pounds. Right now I have 200-pound bloodhounds. And I love these dogs to death, but the one great thing about dogs, if you've ever owned one, is that I'm so interested in that nonverbal communication you can have with animals. I always know when my dog's hungry, when he's mad at me, when he's excited. And I really wanted to capture the relationship between this kind of independent tomboy girl and her giant Yeti that doesn't speak English, and see if we could maintain a really strong bond between them without really speaking, you know? And of course, our Yeti evolves, and you see different things about him, that he has those magical abilities, and that he's even more than that. at the beginning of the film, I think I try to ask central questions like, why did this Yeti come to this rooftop? And at the beginning, you think it's because Yi needs to help him get home. But at the end of the movie, you realize that this Yeti came to Yi's rooftop in order to help her heal. And so he kind of has layers and gets more evolved as the film evolves. So.
Thank you. Here.
This question is for the director. So the main characters are mainly Asian. So how do you hire your actor and actresses? Why did you choose an Asian person for the main characters?
The characters in the film are Asian. How did you choose your cast? And why is not the leading character Asian?
One of the things I think that was incredibly important, not to just the DreamWorks team, but also to the Pearl Studio team, was that we were honoring this whole culture, showing off the beauty of China. We have kids that are Chinese, and we wanted to cast a cast that was Chinese. Not only that, our loop group, which is any character you hear on the street in the background ordering noodles or riding by on a bike, they're also Chinese. So it was important for our whole crew. I think this sounds really silly, but because our partners are Pearl and we've gotten to know them so well, I wouldn't have even thought of casting Caucasian characters in a film where Yi looks like Yi, you know? And so, it was a choice, but it felt like a pretty easy choice.
And just to add to that, I think you guys may not be aware, but this is the first time ever a modern-day Chinese family has been represented in a global animated film. Thanks. So we were so excited about that opportunity, but of course, along with that, we felt a tremendous responsibility to represent the culture in as authentic way as possible. And certainly with the casting, we all know how important representation is, so I'm just really thrilled that we were able to achieve that with this film.
And you certainly did.
I just wanted to add one more thing. And once you meet these actors, and when we got to know them, I can't imagine it being anyone else. I mean, they just embodied these characters so perfectly. It was really a no-brainer. They were perfect.
I think it was a yes.
Thank you. Unfortunately, we don't have time for more questions, but please join me in thanking everyone on stage for this beautiful work. Thank you so much for being here. And remember to vote.